Institute Symposium on Trademarks and Their Challenges. This has been such a phenomenal experience in helping organize these events. David Franklin, the executive director at the McCarthy Institute, and I sat down over lunch in San Francisco probably 4.5, 5 years ago. And Pete Becker from my team was also with us, and we literally were sitting down having a discussion about keywords. And what evolved out of that episode was a discussion of all of these crazy trademark issues that Microsoft is in the middle of or has experienced. And as we started talking about it kind of in an academic sense, David said, you know, with the issues you're talking about, we should really have a symposium on it. Said, well, that's fun, but in order to draw people, I think we need Tom McCarthy there to do it. And so he says, if you bring some of the speakers to San Francisco to our institute, I'm happy to get Tom to talk. I think I can convince him. I said, if you bring Tom, we'll bring the crowd. Well, the first year we did it, we had it at the University of San Francisco. They were fabulous hosts. We were able to line up some of the prominent brands in the Bay Area. And it was a large audience of predominantly students and alum from the University of San Francisco and Silicon Valley area lawyers. And it evolved from there into taking this symposium on the road. And I said, you know what, that was so great. Let's take it up to Microsoft. I want to feature some Seattle area brands. So the next year, we took it up to Microsoft. We tried to make it appropriately techie, so we could impress the audience there. And we said, how can we take this beyond that? So last year, we decided we're going to take it on the road. Let's go feature where these brand owners actually work, do their day jobs, and show off what all the hard work about building brands, building businesses is all about. We recruited Fabrizio Vieira from Time Warner to be the gracious host last year. And so we had it in Midtown Manhattan and very much had the feel of New York. Outside one window you saw the skyline of New York. Outside the other window of the facility you saw Central Park. It was a fabulous, fabulous setting. And in the course of preparing for that, I had recruited the help of Milan Stark to participate on one of the panels. And we got talking and she said, it would be fabulous to take this to LA. Have you thought about that? I'm like, we're going to Hollywood. And here we are, and the setting, again, being able to come to the 20th Century Studios studio is phenomenal. Fox has been an absolutely fabulous host. We had, those of us who were doing some of the speaking, a few of us got a tour of the studio yesterday and had a wonderful, wonderful exposure to the wonder of filmmaking that goes on here. Well, I want to just give a big personal thank you to Milan for helping coordinate this. You have been a gracious host, and we appreciate everything you've done. I want to thank Dean Brand from the University of San Francisco Law School. I want to thank Tom McCarthy, the namesake for all of this, and the reason we all are working in trademarks. And of course, my partner in crime, David Franklin, who has been incredibly helpful in helping get these things off the ground. Lastly, I want to just say a big thank you to all of the sponsors who have helped us have this production today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to David and let him have a few remarks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ross. Welcome. We're delighted to have you here. We have a great lineup for today. What we've tried to do with the McCarthy Institute over the last few years is bring together a blend of practitioners, in-house counsel, outside counsel, government officials, university professors, and other policymakers to talk about cutting-edge issues in trademark law. And that's why we've entitled it Trademark Law and Its Challenges in each successive year. And we think that we, through this, are able to make a contribution to the advancement of knowledge and hopefully to further bring education in this area to trademark lawyers. So we're really grateful that you're here. I would like to thank everybody, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to do that. I want to especially thank Milan Stark and Fox for their generosity. in hosting us. This is a fabulous facility, and the lot here is exciting and interesting, and I think they're going to be filming later in the day when we're having our reception at the end of the day. We might see some movie stars. I'm planning myself on trying to do a casting and get involved in something. But so the sponsors for this year's event are Banner and Witkoff, Fish and Richardson, Mark Monitor, Shapiro Cone, Unitalon, Covington and Burling, INTA, Perkins Coie, Thompson Reuters, and Venable. And we're just very thankful to them and for their continuing support. And it'd be great if you could give a round of applause to the sponsors of this year's event. A couple of small notes, and then I'm going to introduce my dean. The bathrooms are out in the lobby in the back on what is to my right. The store where you can buy things is open until 5 o'clock. There's a survey in your packet that we would like you to take and fill out before the end of the day or at the end of the day. And we've been told to announce there is no eating or drinking in this theater. So with that, Dean Brand, Jeffrey Brand is the dean of the law school at USF. He's been the dean for 13 years. He hired me in the year 2000, and he's retiring this year, much to our regret. We're in the middle of a dean search, but we are so grateful to Jeff and to all of what he's given to USF and his support for the McCarthy Institute for the work that we've been able to do. And I think he's just going to say a few words to us.
This is amazing being here. You know, as a kid, we used to come to the lot in the 50s, and to say things have changed slightly. I will be very, very brief. I just want to make 3 points. First of all, I want to echo all thank yous. The sponsors have just been amazing. The driving forces, of course, Russ and David. You guys are constantly scheming and conspiring, and I gather there's more scheming and conspiring about next year as well. And of course, to the McCarthy Institute and to the gentleman who's been my friend for over 30 years, whose name it bears. Tom, thank you for everything. My second point is simply this. This is the 100th birthday of the University of San Francisco School of Law, where we believe deeply in educating for justice to change the world from here. And nothing could be a better example of what our mission is all about than the kind of partnership that Russ and Microsoft and all the great law firms and members of the Academy have forged for this. So we're deeply grateful, David, for giving us a great example of what the law school should be all about. And my third point is this. In the audience today are the most important people of all. And there are about 22 USF law students. Could you guys just stand for a second? I just want to tell you these are really, really smart, really diverse, great folks who want what we wanted, the ability to lead a good life, to do good in the world, and to make a decent living. And you guys, I'm expecting you to schmooze a lot with everybody. So welcome to this, and thank you very much.
Okay, at the risk of having far too many welcomes, I'm going to give you one last one. Welcome very much to Fox. We're very excited to be hosting the McCarthy Trademark Symposium this year. I think you probably noticed a lot of, I don't know, cables, trailers, and other equipment as you were making your walk over to here, and that is because we are an active working studio. And we are currently in production with many of our television series. In fact, the Modern Family television series, one of our top shows, shoots on the soundstage directly across from this theater. So keep your eyes open when you walk off to lunch or the reception or other things, and you might see somebody. I also wanted to just give you a little bit of extra studio trivia about the place that you're sitting in right now. This is our Zanuck Theater. And actually, before it was this theater, it was the studio sound department for about 30 years. So Fox and other major studios would use this facility to mix their sound effects and dialogue and music. And as an example of that, Titanic was actually edited, sound edited in this in this building. So later it was converted into the screening room that you're sitting in now. Well, enough of that. My real job here today, and it's my great privilege to introduce Gary Roberts to all of you. Gary is the Executive Vice President of Fox Group Legal, and in that role, he oversees all of the corporate legal department for every division of Fox. So it's the labor and employment groups, the general litigation group, the intellectual property group, the content protection group, state and local government affairs, security, and more. So he has a very large job, and we're so glad that he could be with us today. Following law school, Gary actually clerked in New Orleans in the Fifth Circuit. And then before joining Fox, he practiced law at Munger Tolles here in Los Angeles. He joined Fox in 1993 and has been with us ever since, and I have the extraordinary good fortune of working with him. He's really, truly somebody I believe leads by example in his excellent lawyering and in his thoughtful and pragmatic approach to all the myriad of issues that we get thrown at us every single day, but also through his community service. And we are really extra lucky to have Gary with us here today because actually tonight he is jetting off to Honduras to be a translator. He has done this for many, many years, serving with Doctors Without Borders and bringing desperately needed medical care to remote village populations in Honduras. So please help me in welcoming Gary Roberts.
Thank you, Milan. Now, I have to confess, I'm totally confused now. I was just subjected to a completely over-the-top introduction, which I hope to live long enough to deserve half of that. And I thought my function here today was to welcome you all, and I believe I'm now the fourth person to have done that. But welcome. So if I had any sense, I would sit down now and call it good. But I do want to say a couple of words. Particularly, I want to obviously say how honored we are to host the 4th Annual McCarthy Trademark Symposium. I hope you do get a chance to kind of wander around and check out Fox some more. It's a pretty cool place, and our business is a pretty cool business. And some of us were talking before about how sometimes we lose sight of that. And so it's fun for us to have people from the outside world come here and kind of ooh and ah and remind us of what's special about this place. It's also fun to be here at kind of the end, I guess, of the High Holy Week in Hollywood with the Oscars. I see a lot of colleagues from around town here, so welcome to all of you as well to Fox. Perhaps when we have a moment, someone can explain to me why Argo is a more compelling picture than Life of Pi, but I digress. Actually, I'd like to have that conversation in 10 years. I think I can probably win the argument hands down then. But anyway, Milan mentioned Honduras, and one thing I want to say about that, first of all, by way of kind of making my apologies, because I'm trying to get out of town in a little while, it is a crazy day, so I may not be able to take in as much of the fantastic program as I would like. But Honduras is a very, very different world. I'm going to spend the next 10 days with people who, rather than like me, have trouble controlling overeating, literally do not have enough food to eat. So it's a very jarring, very different kind of experience. As I think all of you know, the second poorest country in our hemisphere, and it's a great privilege to go there. One thing they share with us in Honduras is a complete obsession with The Simpsons. And everywhere you go, you see different Simpsons characters. In fact, as many of you in this room probably know, in the dubbing world, there are country-specific characters. So that if, for example, as once happened, I took the wrong DVDs to share, a bunch of people said, that's not Bart Simpson. There's that kind of recognition, and it kind of goes to the power of some of the stuff that we're talking about. I think traditionally, studios have been seen more as copyright companies, but more and more, I think we're being appropriately recognized as brand and technology companies. I know this is a trademark seminar. I have to throw in one word, and that is on the technology piece. If you look at Avatar, if you look at Life of Pi, there's amazing innovation and technology that goes into pulling something like that off. Life of Pi was a very compelling story about a book that's now a few years old, and it was never made into a movie because it was literally impossible to make that into a movie. And now you watch that and you cannot believe that you're not looking at a real tiger. That is innovation. We're very proud of that. We're very proud of every step in the process that it takes to make that happen. And I have to get in just a little dig at those who would misapply the label innovation to those in the world who make it possible to easily steal that product once we're done with it. But I digress again. Trademarks, as you all know, tell stories. It is one of the things that studios are best at, telling stories. We as entertainment companies are always looking to shape our brands to represent a myriad of complex stories and characters at multiple levels. Show titles, like The Simpsons, as I mentioned, Sons of Anarchy and Glee, channel names such as Speed and FX, film franchises such as Avatar, Die Hard, and Ice Age, and even our house marks, like Fox and 20th Century Fox, all tell audiences what types of stories and characters they can expect, whether it be irreverent humor, action, comedy, heart-wrenching drama, or unparalleled visual effects. Our marks instantaneously communicate to our audiences the characteristics and qualities of our properties. The efficiency and efficacy of these important tools of communications are invaluable to us and inform our brand protection strategies at every turn. As Milan mentioned, I've been here since 1993. I think that's like 160 years in studio years. Some days it feels like that long. So I've been here kind of for the whole ride in terms of the TV. Right when I got here in 1994, we acquired the rights to the NFC football games, which was the sort of signal event in the history of the network, changed it from a couple of bad TV shows plus The Simpsons into a very viable network. And so many of the things that are now a given in terms of sports were early on Fox branding. I have still a collection of hate mail that we got when we started putting the 10-yard line marker on the football field, when we started putting the little bug up in the corner with the score. You're messing around with people's settled expectations about what they see, but of course over time, doing things differently, seeing things in a different way, allowing the consumer to see things in a different way, has really, I would argue, transformed the TV world. As content companies, studios are constantly navigating a balance between vigilantly protecting all of that creative work and the IP rights we develop and the need for robust, fair use. After all, we're on both sides of the issue. We clear voluminous amounts of material on a daily basis. That's really true of Milan's team. This continual balancing act guides our policy stances, our litigation practices, our enforcement actions, and our clearances and counseling of advice. The topics addressed today, right of publicity, intermediary liability, empirics and surveys and IP litigation, and the new GTLD expansion, a particular nightmare of mine, are all issues that present daily challenges to folks like us. They raise issues about what we can use, when, and how, what the proper balance should be between those who provide the content, those who provide the means to distribute that content, and those who, as end users, view that content, hopefully with enjoyment. How consumers perceive our IP and how that influences litigated disputes. And then there is the impending new GTLD expansion, which some believe holds the promise of boundless opportunities and others believe holds the promise of boundless brand protection challenges. So with that, again, welcome to Fox. I do want to say a particular welcome to a couple of people. There are many people in this room who, In spite of Milan's best efforts to educate me over the years in trademark law, I might only know one in a given category, and many of those people are in the room today. So it's a special challenge for me. It's kind of the rock star of the trademark world, if you will, and there are several of them. But I particularly want to call out and thank Professor McCarthy, a true luminary in the field, David Franklin and Dean Brand and USF, and Russ Pangborn and Microsoft for organizing this annual symposium and bringing together such an amazing faculty with divergent views. Also, thanks to all the sponsors of today's program, thanks to all the speakers, and finally, thanks to all of you in the audience. Now we'll sit down and be quiet, and again, welcome to Fox.